Welcome to Nasdaq Trade Talks. I'm your host, Jill Malandrino, Global Markets Reporter at Nasdaq. Joining me at the market site in Times Square, we have Beerud Sheth. He is the CEO of Gupshup. We're going to learn about a technology that is going to change the way we text and what the mobile industry is going to look like going forward globally. It's great to have you with us at Market Site. Let's learn more about Gupshup. You're tying together multiple platforms to create this omni-channel experience.
That's right. So Gupshup is a sort of unified messaging platform, if you will. Previously there was only one messaging channel, primarily the SMS. And these days there are many other messaging apps, right? WhatsApp and WeChat and Skype and Viber and Telegram and so on. There's like 30 plus major messaging channels and then many others as well. So businesses, enterprises that want to communicate with users can now reach users on any of these different channels, and consumers prefer different channels for different purposes, right? And depending on the segment or which part of the country they live in and so on. So you have a proliferation of different messaging channels, and therefore businesses now need to reach all of them there. So we provide a single common platform, a single API, if you will, that enterprises can use to send the message, and then we manage all of that in the middle, right? Which channel, the user preferences, or the template, because some channels are text only, some of them allow images and such. So we manage, we modify those templates, and there are opt-in requirements, different kinds of restrictions and so on. So we manage all of that and just provide sort of a single interface. So it's actually great for enterprises where they can reach consumers on different channels with richer experiences, and it's good for consumers. They can interact with businesses on their own terms.
All right, now how many messages have been processed and what has that enabled businesses to do?
So our platform in aggregate, we handle about 4 billion messages a month, about 50 billion a year, so it's very high scale globally. And it enables enterprise, so it's a cross section of enterprises. So if you think about banks, airlines, e-commerce companies, retailers and so on, right? So typically an e-commerce company would say your order has shipped, your package is arriving. An airline might say your flight is delayed. A bank will say, hey, you spent $10 at Starbucks and so on. So you have all of these notifications and alerts coming to the inbox. And it enables, consumers expect it because it helps them it helps them manage your life, right? It makes this, the smartphone your sort of remote control for life, right? You can keep on top of everything that's going on. And for the enterprises, it helps them reduce, in banking, for example, reduces fraud, it reduces customer support calls, it notifies customers, keeps them updated, gives a great sort of overall customer experience. So ultimately, mind you, we're not talking about promotional or spam messaging at all. These are all what I call transactional messages. These are related to sort of the flow, and it allows businesses and consumers to be in touch instantly in real time and get notified.
All right, now are these what you would call like bot building tools for everyone to allow these conversations to be automated?
Yeah, that's right, So see, when businesses notify consumers, in many cases, consumers might want to respond to it, right? Saying if your flight's delayed, maybe you want to cancel or reschedule, or if your package is arriving and you're not at home, you want to reschedule again. So when consumers reply, usually you'll have millions of people replying, right? So businesses cannot handle that manually. So in some cases, it may go to customer support, but more likely they'll have automated software responding to these messages. And these automated programs are called chatbots, right? So they set up chatbots that can handle these incoming messages and respond almost instantly and automatically, right? So Gupshup also provides a platform to help businesses build chatbots. And these platforms have different kinds of tools. There are bots you can build with no coding at all, or somewhat lightweight coding. They're sort of drag and drop tools that make it easy even for a designer or a business user to create it. And then of course for developers there are richer and more advanced tools. But the point is, whether you are a large global multinational company or even a small restaurant or a mom and pop shop, we make it easy for them to build chatbots to handle these automated queries.
That would be great if you're at the airport and you get, your flight's been changed or it's delayed or it's canceled, rather than panicking, if you can get a bot that pops up, okay, this is what you can or cannot do next.
Exactly. I mean, you think about it, right? You have 200 people all trying to change their flights
Right.
at the same time. And instead of the person at the desk being overwhelmed, each of them could instantly, automatically figure out. And by the way, the bot could already know what your ultimate destination is, where you're going, and what the rerouting options are. and even allow, if some of them are leisure travelers, they can go the next day and get a voucher for it, while somebody else can instantly book the earliest flight out. So
that's a complete game changer. I mean, we've all been in those situations where you get the cancellation, everyone rushes to the counter, and then you can't get a
Exactly.
hotel, and you can't figure out where to reroute because you don't know the system. That's a total game changer. So to wrap up here, what's next with mobile technology around the world?
So I think one of the newest things that we've launched recently is also making the messaging app more intelligent, right? So we've embedded, so in partnership with handset manufacturers, so we worked with OnePlus, which is a big brand for starters in India, but then we're going to take it around the world. We are embedding AI software inside the messaging app, and what it does is two things in particular. It automatically classifies messages that are coming in, whether it's transactional message, promotional message, or personal messages and so on. And then the other is that it automatically extracts the key information and renders them as cards, okay? So when you do that, suddenly, and you'll see it on the screen, but it makes it less cluttered. It makes it aesthetically more pleasing. It's easier to manage. In a way, what we're doing is taking the mess out of messaging, if you will, just making it a lot easier and simpler for, decluttering people's lives, making it simpler. So I think, and that, by the way, is a harbinger of a whole new series of capabilities that are going to come in, where imagine if there's a payment reminder, you could probably just click on a button and pay it instantly, or many other, or maybe even automate that payment, saying if your utility bill is less than $100 every month, it could be automatically paid. So, ultimately the messaging box is arguably the most heavily and frequently used app on the smartphone. And if you can make it simpler, easier, it handles the overload, it makes it much easier, right? So ultimately, just to step back again, there are different parts of the messaging experience. There's something on the enterprise side where you have, with chatbots, you're adding intelligence into that experience. And then there's something on the device side itself, where again, we are adding intelligence to declutter and organize the content and so on. And I think once you do that, the whole experience becomes richer. We call this vision, essentially smart messaging, where it's not just for plain communication, but it's also for all kinds of transactions. You could shop and buy and book and pay, and just do it equally easily and so on. So I think there's a huge opportunity. I think messaging is entering sort of a renaissance period where I expect a lot more capabilities. And of course, we'll do our bit, but I think there's a lot of companies doing interesting things.
Completely evolved beyond point and click, that's for sure. Thank you so much for joining us at MarketSite.
Thank you for having me.
And thank you for joining me on Trade Talks. I'm Jill Malandrino, Global Markets Reporter at Nasdaq.